finally got tired of using these stupid wooden pieces up underneath of the leveling or the landing gear. It just looks janky, right? So we finally spent the money and bought some RV jack pads. We've also got the Anderson jack blocks, but I think we said previously that it doesn't always work with this rig the way that it likes to level itself. Sometimes the front end, when we go into auto leveling with those Anderson blocks on, it won't go down far enough, and so the hydraulics just keep running to the landing gear, and then we have to raise it back up, take the Anderson blocks off. So like I said, we sprung for the jack pad, and so all I'm going to do here, we already did one because I didn't want to look like a fool on the camera, but I said to just lube the outside piece here, lubricate the outside piece here with just some dish soap. So this is super easy. We just put this under here, and Candace is just simply going to put down the landing gear here, and this is just going to snap right into place. Okay. It's that easy. It really is that easy. You guys just watched me do it. So I'm really excited to see what these do for us, see what they do for the stability, but mostly I'm just glad to get rid of these wood blocks. So anyway, we'll keep updating you guys on what this is like and what we think about it as we go along. But I'm not going to make you watch the rest of this, so we'll cut it now. Okay, so the rest of those went on just as easy as the one that you guys saw. I've heard nothing but great things about these, so I don't think we have anything but great expectations for them to help out with the the stabilizing of that rig, and again, definitely getting rid of the Beverly Hillbilly look there with the wood blocks. What do you think, buddy? Are you ready to go? Huh? Somebody got a haircut this week. Yeah, looks about 5 years younger, don't you? Alright, so I'm a little bit in the dark when it comes to the whole planning aspect of all this traveling that we do. Candace does all of that. I pretty much just get in the truck and go where the GPS tells me to go. So I'm a little bit curious as to how that worked out when we were up there in Michigan, that 5 weeks that we were up there, and I want to know how much we spent on that whole trip. And really what I'm most interested in is figuring out how much we spent on average per night for those camping fees. So we by far did the most amount of boondocking that we've ever done. And obviously that's going to drive down our average camping fees. So I'm going to go out there and pick her brain a little bit on this because she's a really great planner and she's very detail oriented when it comes to all that research and planning. So we're going to go outside here and we're just going to talk a little bit about how she plans all that. I have some questions. So my first question is, because I was just telling the viewers here, you do all the planning, I pretty much just drive wherever you tell me to go.
Yep.
So how much did we spend on average per night in our trip to Michigan?
In our trip to Michigan, $31.96 a night.
$31, so almost $32.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this. We're going to get you a microphone because I think this is a bigger conversation.
Probably.
Okay, so $32 a night for, what was it, like 5 weeks? Something like that. So that's pretty good. So where did we get the biggest savings there?
So we got our biggest savings by using Harvest Toast and Boondocker's Welcome.
Okay, and like I was just telling them, we actually we did more boondocking than we've ever done. A lot of that was so hopefully we could save money, and we also wanted to test some of our systems and stuff. So how did that work out? How many nights of boondocking? Just kind of break that down for us.
So we had 8 nights of boondocking, and we spent $50 total. That was whatever the host asked for. So it ended up working out to like $6.25 a night.
Wow, $6.25 a night. That was just Boondockers Welcome. That was both of them. Boondockers
Yes.
Welcome, Harvest Host. Okay, and so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the times that we paid, it was because we used their electric or water or whatever. Okay, so what about the rest of it? So like, because we stayed in some state parks.
Yep.
And then I don't know, do we stay any regular campgrounds?
We did.
So how does all that look?
So I'll give you our numbers. So we spent 15 nights in state parks for an average of $35.60 a night. 3 nights at a city park, which happened to be a fairgrounds, for $35 a night. 10 nights in private campgrounds for an average of $41.20 a night. And then we had to utilize dump stations twice.
Oh yeah.
For $18, so $9 a piece. That all got added up into that $31.96.
So I'm assuming all that was planned.
Yep.
You had all that planned out. I mean, I know you did. You spent hours and hours planning all of that. So how do you get that done? Because like I said before, I get in the truck and I drive.
So I start with RV Trip Wizard. That gives me the big picture and the general route. So what I'll do is, like for this trip, I plugged in where we were starting from and where we were going to end up, which in this case happened to be the same spot. And so that gave me the general route, which then allowed me to see what was on the route that we wanted to see and do, which helped me kind of plan where we were going to stay. So, based on research, we knew we wanted to hit, the Holland area, Sleeping Bear Dunes, Tequamanon, Pictured Rocks, things like that. So I plugged those in. And then the nice thing about RV Trip Wizard is once you get your route in, then it shows you the campgrounds that are right on your route or not too far off your route. So you don't have to spend extra fuel driving here, there, and everywhere.
So RV Trip Wizard is your main planning tool?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and that's where I get it all loaded in. I put the campgrounds in there. If it's a harvest host, once we've been accepted, then I'll go ahead and I'll put the actual address in there. And that gives us our drive mileage for each day. And the other nice feature, which I just realized, was that in RV Trip Wizard, you can actually filter the campgrounds by price. So when you click on each of them, it'll give you a little price scale, $1, $2, $3, $4, and you can go into the settings and filter. Say we only wanted to do cheap and a little bit more expensive, so 1 and 2. You can filter those in, and then it pulls everything else out of your search criteria, so you're not wasting your time clicking on maybe resorts that you're not willing to spend the money for. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, hit that bell button so you're notified when we drop future videos. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps keep these videos coming to you each week. We really like hearing from all of you, so if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggested topics, pop those down into the comment section.
Okay, so now we also mentioned Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host, so that's another tool. Is that another app? Is it a website?
It's both. So I primarily use the website for searching just because it's a little easier, bigger screen. But depending on where we are, because I don't really want to boondock for really extended times. Really, like Harvest Host, typically those are 1 night only. Some of the hosts will allow you to stay additional nights. And then Boondockers Welcome is anywhere from 1 to typically 5 nights because they're private homes. So it's up to them how long they want to put you up for. So the longest we stayed in any one Boondockers Welcome / Harvest Host was 4 nights. So Harvest Host / Boondockers, they just revamped their website and you can now filter for hookups. So previously, I probably would not have considered staying at a Harvest Host or a boondocker's welcome in the summer, in the heat of summer when we need air conditioning due to lack of electricity. And so what I had to do previously was click on every single one in the area, look to see if they had electric, and then make a note of them. Now there's a little tab up the top. You can filter by, okay, we need electric, and it'll only show you the hosts that have some sort of electric capability. You can also filter for whether you need water. You can filter, the big thing that we've done for a while is filtering by size, because we're so big and there's a lot of places out there that they can only take small rigs. So that automatically knocks lots of hosts out.
Yeah.
And then if you're in kind of the shoulder season and you need your generator, there's also a filter for that, because not everybody will allow you to run a generator. So there's a couple different filters that you can throw in. You can even throw in that's another new feature, is you can click the button that will only bring you hosts that allow for extra night stays. So if you want to stay somewhere for, say, 3 nights to explore the area.
Most of the time we spent more than one night at these boondocker / harvest hosts. So that's...
We used them for 2 reasons. One, as just overnight stops to get from point A to point B because the drive was too long. Or because we were going to be a couple days and the weather was going to be right for boondocking.
Okay, so let's back up for a second and let's talk about, you mentioned earlier all the things that we wanted to do along the way. Pictured rocks, the Quamanon Falls, all that good stuff. But there's also... We didn't really plan for this because we didn't realize everything was going to be so remote up there. But there are things that you want to do, like the things that you mentioned, and there are things that you need to do.
Right.
And then there are things that you want to do that are outside of your sightseeing and stuff like that. So how does that factor in?
Well, for us anyway, because we drive a big dually and gas is not cheap, I try to stay within about 35 miles of the main things that we want to do, the things that we're going to be doing multiple days during our stay. So, like if we knew that we were going to be at least 2 days in Pictured Rocks, I wanted to be within that 35-mile radius so we weren't spending all that time driving and all that gas. But our friends over at Untethered have a different criteria that they look for when they're picking their stays that some of us wouldn't think about.
The gym. Yeah, they're always going to the gym.
We know that there's some main things that we want to hit. We're okay to drive an hour to certain things, but something that we look for is a gym. We have a membership with Planet Fitness where we can go to any of them within the U.S. That's a really big part of our routine, and it's important for us to do that early and get our juices flowing. So I hate to say it, but sometimes we prioritize a distance from a Planet Fitness versus a destination because we know we're going to do that 5 times at least that week.
So you got to take that into consideration too. When you live in a rig like we do, there are a lot of things like that you have to take into consideration when you're planning your trip. The things that you want to do, as well as the things that you need to do. You got to keep that, all that in mind as well. And then even to go a little bit further, we've talked about it in previous videos, so I'm not going to go in depth, but how do you get your mail? All that good stuff. Are there Amazon lockers nearby? That kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to plan for and keep track of. So you're doing all this planning before we left. I assume that RV Trip Wizard is that's where you mashed everything together and organized it all.
Yes. So I plan the whole trip in there, which gives me our driving route so I can see everything, kind of that big picture, like I said. And then for me, what works is I create a Word document. And so like we were going to be in Holland. I looked up everything in the area that was going to be interesting to us, including we have a Sam's Club membership. So I looked up the local Sam's Club in case we were going to go. And I put that all in that Word document, including mileage from the campground, just so I know. And I don't know necessarily that my Word document is the best way to go. So if you have ideas on how to keep the things that you want to see and do on your trips, especially things that may not be on your immediate trip, it might be 2 years from now, how do you keep all that organized so you remember the cool things to do by the time you actually go on the trip?
Because we know, if there's anything we know, after being in Michigan, every time we met somebody from Michigan, oh, you have to do this, oh, you have to do that, oh, you have to do this, and that's really hard to keep track of. So if you got any ideas on that, guys, about or how you do it, how you organize that stuff when you're planning trips that the things that you want to do, because you can't do everything when you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe how you organize that, where you document it, or where you write that stuff down, basically how you organize that. So if you got any ideas on that, hit us down below in the comments and let us know how you do that.
Yes, we would be grateful.
And then I also see you using Google a lot too, right?
Yes.
So how do you incorporate the Google? Because we don't navigate by Google, guys, because
No.
Google will put you in a bad situation in a heartbeat when you're hauling one of these big rigs.
You are not on any marked road.
I know that, Lola.
Make a U-turn at the next legal opportunity.
I can't.
So how do you incorporate the Google searches into how do you plan?
So typically what I do is with RV Trip Wizard, I'll typically start there, especially for campgrounds and stuff. And I look at the reviews first to see if they mention big rigs. Not only are the sites big enough, but is it going to be feasible to get to the sites? Are the roads, do they have tight turns? Are they really thin? So that's what I look for. And then I'll go to the website. But if I'm at all nervous or unsure, I'll do a Google satellite view, and if possible, a street view. And I'll actually put the little human down on the street view, and I will
Drive around, basically.
drive around.
Yeah.
I even do that sometimes when we get closer to the trip, and I'll just do that to make sure that there aren't any surprises when if we're coming through a small town. Okay, we have to make a left-hand turn onto this road. How tight is that?
Yeah, and she even does that on travel days. If we need to get off the road for some reason, bathroom break, whatever the case may be, a lot of times she'll just bring up that Google map and find the next gas station or whatever, a convenience store to try and pull off on. And if you use those satellite views, that's a really great way to get that overhead view to make sure that you can get in and get out with no issues. And so far, we haven't had any issues
Correct.
getting in and out of those places. So Google Maps, that's another good tool. So there's a lot of stuff going into this that maybe a lot of people don't realize. I know that I didn't realize a lot of this.
Yeah, especially if you have a bigger rig. Gone are the days when you could just get in your rig and just drive, pull over wherever you felt like. The campground was probably going to have a spot for you. If you've got like a really tiny camper, maybe you're in a Class B van, your chances are obviously much greater. But if you have a bigger rig, even a 30-something footer,
Yeah.
you might get lucky. I mean, there are people that do it and they plan 1 and 2 days out. But I don't feel comfortable with that because of how big we are.
That gets to be stressful for both of us, I think, if we don't know where we're going and we have a spot that we know that we're going to be able to stay. So
because we don't like to drive more than my max right now is about 200 miles a day.
now we're a little bit different, guys, because we don't have to be anywhere at a specific time. This is where we live. This is where we work, if you will. So we don't have to be anywhere in any specific time. So we like to just take our time to get there. I don't feel like I need to be stressed out because it's an 8-hour drive every day when we're trying to get somewhere. That's not why we got into this, and we just don't enjoy that.
Yeah, I would rather take 3 days to get 600 miles than stress ourselves out each day. I also don't want to plan on staying somewhere with no reservations, find out that we can't get in, and then have to keep driving. We're exhausted. The pets want to get out,
And
especially the cats. They want to get out of their little kennel.
Yep. And then you get to where you're going and you're rushed because it's hot outside, and then that's when you end up screwing stuff up. So anyway, that's not us. So let's go back to the boondocking thing for a second, because that's where we saved a bunch of money. There are a lot of benefits to boondocking. Money. The other thing is you probably aren't going to have any neighbors.
For the most part, no. Harvest Hosts and Boondockers Welcome are slightly different because they're businesses / people's houses, so you could be in a neighborhood.
Right.
But true boondocking, like particularly on the West Coast, on the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM lands, you could be out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we did that in Carlsbad last year.
Right. Now, we did have neighbors there, and it's not that we don't really want neighbors. We would prefer to be in somewhere that's not just a crowded campground. That's just busy all the time. So that's just us. That's our personal preference. And so that boondocking really allows you to do that. And so if you guys have watched some of our previous videos, especially on my EcoFlow systems, we have some significant money invested in that. But what I really want to stress here is there's more to investing the money into that than just saving money on campgrounds.
Yes.
that kind of a setup, some sort of an alternative energy source or alternate energy source allows you to get to some of those places that you wouldn't normally get to. So yes, we have a lot of money invested in this, but number one, it allows us to do what we want to do. It's not all about saving money. And then number two, the second thing I want to say about that is you don't need a huge setup like that.
No.
If you really learn how to conserve your power, you can really go a long way on a small solar setup. So a small inverter, just, you know, maybe a few hundred watts of solar on the roof, and maybe just a couple of quality lithium-ion batteries. So if you've been watching about my EcoFlow setup, yes, we have a lot of money invested in that. But the point is here that you don't need all of that.
No, especially if you kind of save the boondocking for more of the shoulder season, when you don't need the air conditioning, when you're not having to run your furnace all night. If you go when it's very mild outside and you can just leave your windows open, the sky's the limit. I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere that you can fit.
Right. So, all right. So boondocking was one way to save money. So what are some other ways to save money?
So big thing is a lot of campgrounds and even state parks will offer a Good Sam discount, Passport America, things like that. Senior discounts, military discounts. But a lot of times if you're booking online, there's no way, depending on the system, especially the campgrounds that are using CampSpot, you can't get the discount when you book online. So you need to call them and they'll give you the discount that way. You can also save money by booking an entire week. Typically, you only pay for 6 nights. You get that 7th night for free. Monthly, if you're going to be somewhere for a long period of time, that'll save you huge.
So let's get back to staying somewhere for at least a week. So not only can you save in your campground fees, but you're also going to save big time in gas, right? Because you're not hauling this thing down the road every 2 or 3 days. So that's a huge way to save money. And then speaking of fuel discounts.
Yes, we primarily, if we're in areas where it's like a major highway, we use open roads almost exclusively, because open roads, they're all truck stops. So if a big semi truck can get in there, we can get in there. We use the trucker lanes, which means that the diesel, it's a trucker.
It's a high flow diesel pump.
Yes, it's a high flow. So he's done in like
2 minutes.
No time.
Yeah.
I can barely read anything in my book while he's fueling up.
Yeah.
So we easy in, easy out. The savings have been really good. We average probably, I'd say 50 cents a gallon on average.
Yep. Sometimes we'll get up to $1 off. And then the other thing is they have DEF at the pump.
Yes.
DEF at the pump is way cheaper than buying it out of the box. All right, so we got to wrap this up. It is freaking hot out here, guys, and didn't intend this to go this long, but any last final tips?
2 last tips. If you're okay with it, you can save quite a bit by work camping. We have mixed reviews on that. We actually have a video on that. We've heard that especially in state parks, it's a really good gig. The other tip is if you don't need septic, especially if you're not going to be somewhere for an entire week, consider a water electric only site. Because for instance, we stayed at the Holland State Campground, and the few full hookup sites they had were $50 a night, but we had water and electric, and we only paid $38 a night. So that's a $12 a night savings, and we were there for 7 nights. So.
And we were able to use the bathhouses there to save some of the gray tank space and fresh water. But you're right, it's a great way to save money. $12 a night. I mean, it's $12 a night, you know.
If you don't have to have that septic, you know.
All right, let's wrap it up. I need another sparkling water, and it's hot out here, and your dog is probably going bonkers in there because you're out here.
I'm
and he's
sparkling,
not.
yes. I can hear him pacing.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week, this episode. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And while you're down there, hit that bell so that you get notified of all of our future videos. And until that future video,
happy camping and stay safe out there.
all right, guys, see ya.